So every week I pick a different streaming service to talk about and recommend things from. And this week I'm going to talk about Netflix with my friend Cineram, which is cool. Thank you for being here, Cineram. We're mainly doing these because people need something to watch in these COVID times, and if things are locking up yet again, you could probably use some good picks to watch on Netflix. I think Cineram actually did a better job than me, so if you don't really want to see me, want to see Cineram, and you're watching this later, then skip to the chapter that's just Cineram talking, but I still have some recommendations on here. First, I did a review Over the Moon. I don't think it's the greatest thing, but if you're an animation fan, I think you should just watch it once. If you're not, then you don't have to, but if you are, I think you should watch it just for the design and the animation. The story is, you can watch my review. There are new episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, and since I'm doing this anyway, I'll give you a little bit of review in this Netflix picks thing. I am a big fan of Unsolved Mysteries. I think this season was mostly good. It has some really good episodes, but then there's some where the mystery was like almost too unsolved. Like the episode where there's like this woman who was killed in this hotel room. If you really start looking at it, I had like way too many questions. Like, why didn't you call this number? Why didn't you ask this person? How did this person get a hotel room without a credit card? Just like a lot, too many questions, as well as the one about Lady in the Lake, which I know fans sort of liked a lot, but they're just like it's like, I hope they find out who did that for the family, but there's just like too many unanswered questions. The ones, I think there are 5 episodes? I forget. The ones I did really like, the one was the Washington Insider one. That one was interesting and had enough things that you're like, what exactly happened? Who, like, he worked for the White House and all this stuff, and they found his body in a dump. Like, what happened? That's creepy. As well as the one about the ghosts in a town that had the tsunami, in a Japanese town that had the tsunami, was really interesting. They've been doing more foreign stuff, as well as the episode about the guy who escaped jail because they let him. He was like a murderer, and they let him like do Christmas shopping in a mall, and he ran away. That one is actually it's sort of just an advertisement for the Justice Department, but which I'm not as into that part of it, and there's definitely some creepy racial things in there, but it is a true story, and that one was good. But I'd say the Washington Insider, if you're going to watch one, Washington Insider. And other things, let's talk about Carol is a kind of a art house Christmas classic. It's really good, kind of a LGBTQ Christmas hit from Todd Haynes. You should definitely watch that. It's, an art house movie, but I really like Carol. The Crown has a new season that's coming out tomorrow, or if you're watching this, it's already out, probably. But I'm excited. My wife and I really like that show. It's pretty cool. Apparently this is a really good season. If you haven't watched the previous seasons, I recommend 1 and 2. 3 is okay. Actually, there's one about the town. Okay, well, 1 and 2, I recommend The Crown. I think it's really good. I know it's like maybe not for everyone, but Boys in the Hood, if you've never seen that, I think it's the youngest person nominated for Best Director, and the first African American nominated for Best Director was John Singleton. I think I might have recommended Boys in the Hood before, but you should absolutely still see that. It's getting Christmas time, so I wanted to recommend Klaus. If you've never seen Klaus, you absolutely should. It's probably one of my favorite new Christmas classics. I have a few more. Okay. I wanted to recommend Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which has Sean Connery in it. I think people don't talk about this movie enough, but I think it's probably the second best Indiana Jones movie. It's still really good, and you get some Sean Connery if you've watched all the James Bond movies and you forgot about this one for some reason. Since it is almost Turkey Day, I figured it's worth recommending a Mystery Science Theater episode from Netflix, and my favorite from the Netflix run is Cry Wilderness. You should absolutely check out that episode. It is my favorite of the Jonah Ray run. They have the classic Twilight Zone. If you're looking for something to really binge into that's really great, the classic Twilight Zone episodes are on Netflix. If you need something to do over Thanksgiving, you have some days off, or you're just looking for something to do when it's locked down, there are so many great Twilight Zone episodes. You will not be disappointed. Since David Fincher is being talked about currently, I wanted to recommend Zodiac, which many consider to be his best movie. I know they have The Social Network on there, whatever, but Zodiac is great. I would put it in my top of, best David Fincher films. There's been a lot of talk of Orson Welles and his legacy, and David Fincher saying things about Orson Welles. A great documentary about him would be They'll Love Me When I'm Dead, which talks about The Other Side of the Wind, which is also on Netflix, but I feel like I've recommended that enough, and I'll probably recommend it again later. So I'd say if you are new to how ridiculous Orson Welles is, I think it's a good doc for that. And then finally, I know I've recommended it before, but I was watching a little bit of it recently, so I thought I'd bring it up again, which is Kung Fu Hustle. Now there's another one that I would recommend, but Cineram beat me to it, and I think Bloxy Axelwinkle will like this recommendation. Let's get into Cineram's recommendations for Netflix right about now. And thank you, Cineram, for being on the show, for recommending some good things to watch, especially right now.
Hi everyone, I'm Scott, and I'm very pleased to have been invited back by Jim to appear on his live stream with some more Netflix recommendations for your quarantine viewing. So, we had a couple of big premieres on Netflix since the last time we spoke. Netflix has movies that are exclusive to them, can't see them anywhere else. And there were two big ones. The Trial of Chicago 7 got its premiere, I think, early in November. No. Yes. I'm confused. Anyway, it came out pretty recently. What this is basically is a film that's written and directed by Aaron Sorkin. He is the screenwriter of A Few Good Men, The Social Network, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Created The West Wing, and he also wrote and directed Molly's Game with Jessica Chastain, which I talked about some months back. So the Trial of Chicago 7 is about, basically based on something that actually happened. There was a Democratic convention in Chicago in 1968. There's a whole bunch of anti-war protesters there out against the Vietnam War and basically causing a ruckus. And the mayor of Chicago and the cops did not like that one bit, and so there was a lot of trouble there. And so there's a whole slew of anti-war activists, 7 of them, who get put on trial for inciting a riot, even though they didn't even know each other. Actually, there's 8 of them. One of them is a Black Panther who was only in the city for just a couple of hours, and yet he gets lumped in with the rest of them. One of the defendants is a guy named Abby Hoffman, very, very well-known, boisterous and loud and proud anti-war activist. He's played by Sacha Baron Cohen, kind of the star performance of this movie, but there's a whole bunch of other really great people in as well. Michael Keaton, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Mark Rylance, Eddie Redmayne. Frank Langella plays the judge. He's so hateable because he's clearly biased against the defense and cuts all kinds of corners in favor of the prosecution. You know, it's really kind of infuriating. And if you like being infuriated by stuff like that, this is definitely the movie for you. I really like Aaron Sorkin. I love his dialogue, and there's plenty of it in this movie. So yeah, a strong recommendation there. Another movie that I was really excited to see, even more than Trial of Chicago 7, was The Boys in the Band. The Boys in the Band is a play that was put on in the late 60s and then got turned into a film in the early 70s. And I believe for the 50th anniversary, I'm not sure about the date on that, but I believe it was the 50th anniversary of the play, they did another production of it in New York a couple years ago with a whole bunch of openly gay actors. It's about a bunch of gay men who are throwing a birthday party for one of them, and there's a whole bunch of drama there. There's a lot of really, really great dialogue and great dramatic tension. Especially around when during the second half of the movie, they end up playing a phone game, sort of like as a dare to each other, which is really exciting. And I was really I'd seen the film some years ago, so I was really excited to see this new version because instead of having a whole bunch of actors get blacklisted after they made that movie for playing gay characters, now, 50 years later, you've got actors who are big stars who are openly gay. And a lot of them, I think probably all of them who were in the play are in this film as well. Some of them I'm not familiar with, but a lot of them I am. You've got the guy who plays Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. You've got the guy who plays Spock in the new Star Trek movie, Zachary Quinto. Matt Bomer from White Collar. And you've also got a guy who was on a soap opera that I used to watch religiously. He played a real womanizer named David Vickers. In fact, he was so notorious that one of the women on the show, one of the characters on the show, actually named her dog after him. Turns out that actor is openly gay, because here he is in this film, and I didn't even know anything about it. like I said, I don't know all the actors in the show, but I know about half of the cast, and they're all really good. Some of them are very flamboyant. Some of them are really tamping down any signs that they're not straight. You know, playing it straight, as they say, in the closet, or at least in the closet to the world, if not to each other. It's really good film, and I highly recommend it. I'd like to talk a little bit about a movie that came out in the late '80s called Glory. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with this film. It's a Civil War movie with Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Andre Braugher. It's the first film I'd seen Denzel Washington or Andre Braugher in. And they're soldiers who are in a special regiment in the Civil War fighting for the North. It's all black soldiers in this one regiment. They have a white colonel who's leading them, played by Matthew Broderick. And although he's, I think, probably the top billed star, Broderick is, the focus really is on the soldiers themselves. This movie was nominated for a bunch of awards. It won for Best Cinematography. Denzel Washington won his first Oscar for the supporting role that he plays in this. But he's a real rebel in this thing like that. He's very, very outspoken and isn't one to gladly and happily play by the rules, unlike Andre Braugher. When I first saw this movie, I was like 16 years old, so I really related to Andre Braugher a lot more than Denzel Washington. I'm not sure that that's great for me to say, but he was sort of like the guy who was intent on following the rules. Andre Braugher was, and I was sort of that guy as well. And the fact that Denzel was just, kind of a troublemaker. But then again, he has every right to be, because of, the big situation that they came out of. Like slavery? Yeah. Bad. Anyway, Edward Zwick is the director of this movie, and it's really good. It's one of my favorite war movies. So that's on Netflix right now. An independent movie I'd like to talk about is it's called American Honey. It's directed by a British woman named Andrea Arnold, who did a film with Michael Fassbender before this called Fish Tank, which I really liked. The main character of American Honey is a girl named Star, who's played by Sasha Lane, and she's gone on to appear in Hearts Beat Loud with Kiersey Clemens, and The Miseducation of Cameron Post with Hit Girl, Chloe Moretz. Anyway, she's living in some Midwestern city, kind of in a bad situation. She's got a crappy boyfriend. She's taking care of some other woman's kids. And she comes across basically a group of young people who are traveling from city to city selling magazine subscriptions to rich people for bucks, just doing what they can to make cash, to make it day by day. The very first scene, Star is dumpster diving, so clearly her situation is not as good as it could be. And when she meets these people, they're sort of run by the Shia LaBeouf character, who takes a shine to her pretty quickly, and he invites her to come along and join their group and make some money selling magazine subscriptions. The trouble comes because the actual boss of the group is played by Riley Cuff, who is Shia LaBeouf's, apparently her boyfriend, but he's really more like her manservant. He does anything that she tells him to, And so when Shia LaBeouf and Sasha Lane start hanging off, that creates some problems right there. This is an unusual independent movie in that they use a lot of really popular music, which normally low-budget movies don't have the budget for. And also, it's like 2.5 hours long. It's really kind of unusual. But one of the things I like about the movie is the way that it's shot. It's very much from Star's perspective. The camera is either looking at her or it's looking at whatever she's looking at. The camera almost never ever leaves her side. If she's sitting in the back of the van and somebody at the front of the van is talking up front, there's no camera angle that's closer on them. They take that shot from all the way in the back of the van. And I noticed this early on. I find it really interesting when directors impose those kinds of restrictions on themselves. It makes it pretty interesting. That's one of my favorite movies of 2016, so I would check that one out. And finally, very light-hearted and delightful and fun comedy called Easy A is on Netflix right now. I'm sure you're aware of it. Emma Stone is the main character. She lives in a fantastical world where she is not incredibly popular and witty and well-liked. She's a socially awkward teenager in her high school. Yeah, right, that's believable. But it's a fun movie. She starts a rumor that she had a fling with this college guy over the weekend, and the rumor goes completely out of control, and all sort of complications ensue. I really like Emma Stone a lot, so I was eager to see this movie, but I gotta say the best scenes involved her and her parents. Stanley Tucci and Patricia Clarkson play her parents. Every scene with either one of them is absolutely delightful. I would see it just for them. The whole movie is really good, but their scenes especially are really a lot of fun. Oh, and one more thing. I know a lot of you are fans of the movie, so I just wanted to let you know that Paul Blart Mall Cop is on Netflix right now. Yes, that's right, right now. It's on Netflix right now. Paul Blart Mall Cop, so enjoy that if you're so inclined. Thanks again to Jim for inviting me on one more time to give some Netflix recommendations. Happy quarantine viewing to you all. See you later.
Thank you very much, Cineram, for being here again. You should subscribe to him right now. He does a great job. Also, that Paul Blart is on Netflix. You should definitely be watching Paul Blart. I actually enjoyed Paul Blart, by the way. But anyway, those are some great picks. You can find them also in the description of this video, as well as a way to subscribe to Cineram as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and tell me what your recommendations on Netflix would be in the comments below.